What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here, and we are back with another Tales of the Rays video. Today, we're going to be hopping into the part 2 of the producer's letter for this month, which they don't normally do, but this is just the Q&A part 2. So I guess there was more to the Q&A from the last producer's letter that they just didn't include, so they decided to add it now. So we're just going to go over everything here. I doubt there's going to be any new information telling us what's going to be coming to the game, but it will at least give us some insight as to how the developers feel about specific things. So let's not waste any time and let's hop into this. It pretty much just says here what I just said. Questions that weren't featured in the last one. Skill quests. When will the unreleased skill quest be released? Well, this is referring to the character when you get their bond level to 10 and they get their second skit, and you do the mission for them. They're obviously not talking about the collab characters because that will pertain to the collabs getting a rerun. So like right here they say the remaining 14 will be coming mid-May. Kana, Celsius, Pascal, Rondeline, Magilu, Marta, Rain, Annis, Mythos, Zelos, Sync, Ash, Natalia, and Kratos. So all of their skill quests will be coming next month. So this obviously doesn't refer to like Kirito and Asuna being collab characters. They do not have their second skill quest because the bond system was not implemented when their event first came around. Whereas most of the other collabs have gotten like reruns, or the collabs started after the bond skills were implemented. So I believe, and now I could be wrong and correct me down below if I am, but I think the only collab characters that still need their second skill quest are Kirito and Asuna. So I'm sure we will get a rerun of that event eventually someday. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but you know, when it does happen, it does happen. They're definitely not just gonna not do it because it says coming soon. They wouldn't even have put an orb there if they didn't plan to rerun those at some point. Production stories. How long does it take to develop one character? That depends on the character and timing of production, but new characters are typically about 2.5 to 3 months, which includes stuff like Mirage Arts and Arts. So at the point when they decide, which makes sense because we've had those polls before, where they had us decide which character we wanted to come next, and usually from when those polls end to when those characters come out are at least 3 months down the road. So that makes a lot of sense to me. What are some characters or scenes where you were particular about their models or artifacts, etc.? Of course, producer is particular about all characters when making them. There was, however, a turning point around Judas's release budget increase, which led to increased quality. Judas wasn't that late, though, I think. How late was Judas added? I still feel like that was year 1. But maybe I'm wrong there. What are some characters you would like to appear? Producer has been thinking about Tales of mobile characters recently, but collecting materials for them is proving to be difficult. They usually look into how a character was at the time as to not miss anything out, and carefully proceed from there. So, Tales of mobile characters. So, who would that really refer to? Because there's no one really exclusive in Asteria. So I guess maybe more Link stuff. Or maybe they mean like other kind of like spin-off stuff. What concept did you use for Ixamelina to relate to the past Tales Pro tags? Oh boy. Excuse me. The producer's concept during the playing stage was to have Ix as a character who grows by following after the past pro tags of the series. And Melina was to be the childhood friend. When he presented this concept during his first meeting with Miyajima, who had worked on previous titles before, Miyajima also brought in similar character settings to the meeting. And so, by sheer coincidence, these two characters we know came to be. So, that's pretty much what we've come to see about Ix and Melina. Ix has grown into the character he is by basically working alongside these other Tales characters and learning from them. Have there been any arts that were rejected in Rays? Nope. There are However, several arts that have been created but not yet implemented. Ooh, interesting. So long as the game keeps running, producer would like to release them at some point. Have there been any difficulties or particulars you've had when adding characters with limited materials such as removal? When we talk about materials, they mean lack of content from the original games to be able to implement these characters. For characters with a lack of material, they'd have to ask around, which means some detective work is needed to look for those who were previously involved with the character or their successors. Fortunately for Rimmel, there was someone on the team who focused on Destiny 2, so there was surprisingly no issue there. As for particulars, it would be Rimmel's sunfish on her waist. So that's obviously just like a design thing. Ray's being able to grant the user's wishes, be it through story or gameplay, is fascinating. How do you go on such an idea? Is there anything in particular? The producer would have to be particularly careful with things he thinks would be fun, or have events he'd like to see. That's kind of a weird way they worded that. And tries as much as possible not only to appeal to a certain group of people, but majority of it as well, though it's a difficult task. Yeah, because it's really hard to make everyone happy with every single event. Because you got people who want to see a specific character, and they might be like, oh, I wish this character was in this event, but they're not one of the 4 characters involved in the event. But then you get people who are actually happy about the characters who are in the event, so it's majority of people trying to make happy. What's inside the hideout? Posted on Twitter a while back with wallpapers of the hideout attached, so you gotta go digging. How are Omega Nexuses selected? Do they have anything in common? It was briefly mentioned in the story, but Omega Nexuses are mainly those greatly involved with time travel or something similar. Interesting. Okay, so that's it for the Q&A. Well, basic Q&A for production stories. Spirit Gears. Can you increase the amount of spirit fragments dropped in spirit fragment quests, not event? So they're talking about they're not talking about when a Spirit Gear first comes out. They're talking about the weekly like resets where we get that. Like right now we have what is it? It's Emil. I always forget the trio. I think it's like Emil, Sophie, and Kyle. I'm probably wrong. I always get the badges mixed. I know Emil is there because that's who I'm farming. I think that is the 3, but essentially, you know, they're not always the best at dropping stuff. No promises, but it'll be adjusted if necessary when looking at the daily data. It might be difficult to gradually grind up the fragments, but having campaigns to temporarily increase it may help with that. Like, they're talking about, like, how right now, for the current Spirit Gears, it's 2 times drops, but even 2 times drops doesn't guarantee you the best things. I've still had runs where I get, like, 3 shards, even though it's 2 times multiplier. And then there'll be runs where I get, like, 10 plus shards. So it's very inconsistent with what you're going to get. And still, being able to farm someone up to 5 is still going to take you months and months and months and months. Even just getting to 3, if you weren't able to get them during their event, is still going to take some time. But hopefully they do increase. If it was always just 2 times multiplier, and I would be happy also if they do what they did with Ix and Melina, how Ix and Melina's are now just a daily permanent. Like, they don't go away. You can farm their shards whenever, so what was the first batch after them? I'm trying to think who the first batch of Spirit Gears was. Oh, it was Vague, Ston, and Leon. So, if they were the next batch to be put in the permanent pool, like under Ix and Melina, if they just appeared there and you can do them daily, 3 times daily without any issues, and it's just up there forever, I'd be fine with that. If they just eventually get to that point. Okay, so let's go over Battle. Is it possible to implement Mystic Arts from original titles into Rays? It's possible. Some have even been already appeared as Mirage Arts. However, the thing about Mystic Arts, especially in recent 3D titles, is that they were intended to be high-end. So the producer feels uncomfortable implementing them in Rays with a different approach. He'd like to do it if he's found a way that would properly satisfy everyone. So he's talking about, like, there are some Mystic Arts in, like, Berseria, Zestiria, and maybe some of the ones under that are just very high-end and very flashy, and it would just be very hard to make it look good in a mobile game. Is pretty much what I'm gathering from that. Okay, How about recruiting monsters and having them battle like in Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World? Being surrounded by Polwiggles in the room sounds nice too. Having specifications similar to that of Dawn of the New World would be difficult, but well, in a world where even those who used to be our enemies can be our allies, who knows? Probability or possibility isn't zero. So they're saying there may be some monsters that I don't think they'll ever make a playable Polwiggle. Although I think it would be great if we got like a playable Polwiggle and then we had all the accessories from these special events. You know, one where there was a top hat. Right now we have the Easter event. They have bunny ears. That'd be cool if you just get a playable Polwiggle that you can just dress up however you want. That'd be kind of cool. Can you change the animations of characters with the same art to their unique animations like in their original titles? It might be difficult to do for all of them, but the producer would still like to represent their symbolic art style as they were in their respective titles. As older characters' emotions are being adjusted bit by bit, it may be possible that their emotions may just change one day. Okay. So we're talking about, like, for example, like, Vague, for example, like, I actually just finished playing through Rebirth a little over a week ago, myself. And Vague does play slightly different than he does in Raze, in his original game, but obviously it's an older game, so they've had to make some changes to kind of modernize the play style, so to speak. Especially since Rebirth was like a 3-line kind of 2D RPG for the battle style, whereas Raze is 3D, so you have to make some changes there as well. Let's see. I think that's pretty much why everything there. Is it possible for characters with third Mirage Gears... Mirage Gears, by the way, are 5 stars. They're not the Mirage Arts. Those are the 5 stars. Is it possible for characters with third Mirage Gears to have more arts released? Excuse me. And they say, of course. This is something I was going to talk about maybe in a separate video when we got more confirmation, but there were some data mines, you know, here and there. I don't like sharing them because it's not really cool to do that. You know, these developers work very hard on it, but there is some speculation that third or second seasonals might be coming sometime soon. There's a character that is possibly getting a new Mirage art, but it's the name for the Mirage art sounds like a seasonal. It doesn't sound like an overray or decisive Mirage art, and they already have a seasonal. So second seasonals might be starting up, kind of like how we just got third 5 stars. So that's kind of something there. Yes, okay, this is something, setting to keep Oversmash on. An on-off setting might be nice. The current specifications has it as a button, as some users may not want to Oversmash as many times as their tempo. Producer understands this might be troublesome for those who are already accustomed to the game and want to leave it on. So it's under consideration. Yeah, because I always have the issue, like, when rerun events, speaking of which, Zavid's rerun event is about to rerun from last year, so keep an eye out for that. I always have the issue where when a rerun event is going on, because some of those missions to get the currency from the mission tab, you have to use Mirage Arts. But the issue I have is sometimes you use your first Mirage, and some Mirage Arts are very finicky, so you don't have time to press, like Tyr's Decisive Mirage Art, for example, and when she does her like phonic art thing that hits everybody on the field is just like an immediate thing. Sometimes when that hits, you don't have time to tap Oversmash to continue going. So it would be nice to have even if it was just in the settings, you know, you turn, if you're someone who doesn't mind having all your arts go through without having to tap that button over and over and pay attention, it would be nice to kind of have that. When using an overray Mirage Art, I want to remain in Armatus form and be able to cancel it in battle afterwards. Oh boy. Producer would like to do so just like in its original title so he understands. Answering the question of how Armatization would be reproduced in Raze was the purpose of the Spirit Gears in March. But there's still a lot more Armatus forms that have yet to be implemented. So who knows? Producer may continue thinking about it. So that's kind of them soft saying that, you know, because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I want to see Rose use the Armatus with Edna, maybe for an overray or whatever. So it is stuff that they're thinking about. So we may get something where we get an update where maybe with Soray's overray where he armatizes with Mikleo, maybe after the Mirage Art he just stays in that. It won't change the gameplay. Soray's still gonna fight with a sword. But you may see him like just stay in like the blue Armatus form. Oh, okay. Having to remove Mirage Gears to have a character only use Tidal Wave is a little troublesome. So basically being able to turn on and off arts just like in the console titles while using only a single art is kind of lonely as a game. The producer understands the feeling. Since it makes things lonely, it may not be exactly what was requested, but there are UI improvements for arts and equipments planned for the future. So that'll be interesting to see what they have planned for the future. Any plans on adding character banter in the battle results? Nothing planned for now, but the producer would like to increase character interactions in the room and during battle. So they're talking about how, like, in regular Tales games, when you win a battle, there'd sometimes be, characters saying things to one another. And then also, if you've watched the Crestoria stuff so far, they already have that planned in there. You can see, when the battle starts, there was one, like, where Luke was kind of... Luke and Kanata were kind of having some banter back and forth, and then they had some at the end of the battle, so that's kind of cool. Okay, voice. Any plans to fully voice the Tales of Link archive even as a paid service in the future? No plans as of now, but they'll consider it if there's a demand. They've tried doing it once before, but it costs more than expected, such as for the voicing, so it was shelved. Full voice for event stories, please. Producer would really like to do that, but first, Arc 2, which they mentioned they don't have any plans for yet either in the live stream. So, it seems like before they start voicing events, they would voice Arc 2, but even right now, they don't have plans to voice Arc 2 yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. This game's gonna have a long, long lifespan. I'd say... this game will at least make it to 6 years. It's going to make it at least as long as Asteria makes it, because this game is a lot more popular than, especially now, than Asteria. There's a lot more Tales in this game than Asteria has. So this game will at least make it another, 3 years minimum. So I'm sure within those 3 years plus, we will definitely see that. Arc 2 get fully voiced. Mirage Arts. Will all characters eventually get Spirit Gears, Decisive Mirage Arts, Seasonal Mirage Art, and Overray Mirage Art? Spirit Gears and Seasonal Mirage Arts will be given to all characters as much as possible. Okay, so a lot of people were kind of under the speculation that it would only be like the main character and then the side main character. So like, for example, Symphonia, Lloyd and Colette, for Xillia, Jude and Milla, etc., etc. But it seems like here they're saying they want to give every character a Spirit Gear at some point. Can't promise the same for Decisive Mirage Art and Overray because they relate to a character's trait and is situational. So what they're saying is, if a character doesn't have a scene in their game that would warrant a Decisive Mirage Art or an Overray, they're probably not going to get one. Like, Carol will probably get one for his... I mean, they've already used the artwork for it, but as for the art itself... they could definitely do a Decisive Mirage Art when he takes out the, I don't even remember the name of the creature, but when they're in the Zophier Rift, and everyone gets, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but I'm sure most people have played Vesperia by now, when everyone kind of gets frozen by the air Krene, and Carol has to fight that beast on his own. He's a character that would definitely get a Decisive Mirage Art for that, for example. But a character like... who would be a good... I'm trying to think of a character that doesn't really have any, like, supreme battle moments. I want to say Rita, but I feel like she still does some cool stuff. But as for actual battle moments, I don't think she would have a Decisive Mirage Art that would really fit her. The only thing I could really think of is if they just used, like, her Mystic Art from the game. But she might be a character that doesn't get a Decisive Mirage Art. And maybe just gets, like, an original Overray or something. So stuff like that. Like, not every character will end up with one. As for Decisive Mirage Arts and Overrays, just expect characters who had big story moments or big battle moments to kind of get those. And then like so like a character like Martel, for example, who isn't normally playable in her own game, probably won't get an overray or decisive mirage art. She'll probably just get like a seasonal. But I do like that they plan to give most characters spirit gears, you know, as long as the game keeps going. Room. Any plans for more mini games like Karta, serving minigame, warehouse puzzles, Hilda's fortune telling, etc.? Producer would like to add them. He tried Groovy Archie once before, but got frustrated as he couldn't prepare the graphics for it. So that'd be kind of cool. Have little mini games. Change the BGM. Yes, will do. So they're talking about just like, I assume either in the room or even just for the battles, like being able to change which music plays on each stage. So if you want like a specific game title music to be playing when you're doing a mission, maybe you'll be able to do that. Any thoughts on making the room bigger? Not at the moment, but maybe Amiris could make it bigger. Very funny. Can characters still greet you when visiting someone else after you've reached the maximum visitation bonus? No plans for now, as the voices are tied to handling the bonus items, but the producer will think about it, okay? How many types of greetings does a character have, and are they chosen completely at random or set by day? Random, and there are about 3 to 5 types, so I'm assuming it depends on the character. Can we give gifts to character already at max trust? Consider it. Why would you want to do that? I guess if you want to see the dialogue there, but that just seems like a waste. Like, why would you want to increase the bond? You can't increase the bond anymore, so you're just wasting gifts. All right. Any plans to allow more characters in the room? Yes. Okay, so they don't plan to... So maybe, like, in the background, how we have more chairs and stuff, maybe they'll have more characters just kind of sitting around. Can we have our greeting character stand somewhere other than the leftmost side of the room, or maybe even a random greeting character, considering? So, right now it's set up where your first character that you have set, so the one staying on the far left, is the one that will greet you every day when you go for your daily login at the room. So I guess people might want it to be kind of randomized, like maybe between the 4 characters, they can randomize that you have set there. Can we have more rooms, or how about adding room interiors for the different teams, like Keel Labs, Carol's research team, Edna's party, etc.? Having a feel for each team through the background sounds fun. Producers considering it in some way. Okay. Any thoughts on more room arrangements? Sounds good. More details when the next room update is finalized. So, looks like they do have something in the works. Any plans on more party tabs? No plans as of now, but they'll consider if there's a demand. Seems impossible with the current UI, though. Well, yeah, because there's no room for it. I don't even find... Honestly, I hardly ever use the different team tabs. Unless it's like something where I'm like doing the story chapter... And I'm like, okay, I know I need this specific element. But a lot of events lately have just been rainbow. So I've just been switching my team manually for, like, the tab that I'm actually in. You know, my first 6 teams, I think that's all the right colors, are just, like, separate colors. And then Team 7 is my... Team 7 is my event team, usually, when it's, like, rainbow. And then Team 8 is usually my Spirit Gear team. When we have one of those going on. So for the most part, I don't really change. I really just use tab 7 for the most part. When enhancing set material usage to half the maximum amount in anticipation of success, it does feel like materials are wasted when you strike upon a great success. Producer will think about it. They're talking about how sometimes you can get like when you're leveling something up, sometimes you can get a great success, which will add extra levels to what you actually got. So if you're just using all the materials to get to the max level, if you get a great success, you're wasting all those materials. Any plans to add Tales characters that don't have voices, like from Summoner's Lineage? Presence or absence of voice in the original title doesn't matter, so there's a possibility. Very cool. Any plans to add original characters, such as the Eternity anime or through fandom? Possibility isn't zero, be it a poetess who's... Okay, we're not going to read the parentheses stuff, because I wouldn't even understand what that's referring to. The thing is, though, if they were to do that, since the game versions of Raid and the Gang were the ones brought to Tir na Nog, it would be a question of how these anime version and fandom characters would be interpreted. There's also how Raid's concept was focused around the game versions of Tales Styles 2. To be completely honest, they don't really know what would happen if they were to break out of that. So This is something that was brought up before, and a lot of people have asked me about this. Why didn't Alicia get an Armatus? Why was she the only one left out and she just got a regular thing? It's because these are the game versions of these characters. These aren't the anime versions. So while Alicia used the Armatus, she used several of them. I think she used Earth and Water, I believe. I don't know if she used anyone's other than that. I don't really remember. But in the game, she never got to use the Armatus, so it's not something she was just going to be able to flip a switch on and know how to use correctly. So that's why they decided to give her an original thing instead of just, giving her an Armatus, which I'm kind of glad they did, because if all three had gotten an Armatus, that would have felt kind of lazy. I'm still kind of disappointed that we don't get original outfits for Soraya and Rose, but it is what it is. Any plans for full voice drama CDs? If there's a demand, maybe there'll be a sponsor, who knows. Any plans to add X2 elements to X characters? None as of now, but like with Milla, something like costumes, or maybe something with costumes. Perhaps a mirror art that embodies the past and future, or something like that. So like right now for Jude, we have a cut-in for a mirror art that we got at the 2-year anniversary. Wait, was it the anniversary? When Duke got added? No. It was like halfway through last year when we got an event for that. Essentially, we got a cut-in that's Xillia 2 Jude, but it's still Xillia 1 Jude that's using it. We don't even have his outfit yet. So I'm sure Jude will get an overlay at some point that will bring his Xillia 2 outfit. Exchanging of equipment's possible. Oh, I guess maybe they're saying, maybe there will be like a shop. And if you have a 5-star for a character you can't use anymore, maybe you can trade it for another 5-star. So, like, for example, I have gotten more of Lloyd's 5-star than I would ever know what to do with. And I've obviously sold them at this point for Prisms. But maybe they'll add something where it's like, okay, you have a 5-star here. You can trade this 5-star for a 5-star from this list or something like that. Any plans to add titles for enemy characters like Alice and Victor? At some points, yes. Titles, they just mean the stuff you can put as like a banner. Playable. I love how we were talking this earlier. Playable pole wiggle with casual casting animation. Well, not yet? Question mark. They weren't expecting anyone to actually ask that question, clearly. Crest Dojo stagger setting. Will do. Might have to consult the engineering team, though. So it looks like they want to be able to, because if you don't complete the combo correctly, like if you mess up, the AI-controlled computer in the dojo will have their like guard up. So maybe there will be a way for you to just like keep it down if you really just want to practice the combos and get better. Maybe add a help page for overlay mirror artifacts. Will do. The current help page isn't really user-friendly, so they might have to improve that as well. Can we have reruns for missing BGMs and trophies, or be able to purchase them with Prism? They'll have reruns to get and such to give a chance to get them. Collabs, etc. might be difficult as there are other parties involved. So, SAO, we still gotta wait on that. Make Prism stuff cheaper. It would be easier to increase the amount of Prisms attained and opportunities to get rather than making them cheaper entirely. Okay. How's the current process of the glossary feature mentioned previously in the last letter? Producer apologizes for not mentioning this sooner. The glossary is still in the works. It's not just some list that's being worked on, but you'll be able to tap on a scenario to have an explanation pop up. They want to be very detailed with it. And then the last thing, producer received about 150 questions. This combined with the last letter on the live stream, about 80 or 90% were answered. Some were spoilery stuff like characters joining, so they were left out. Okay, so that makes sense. And that is pretty much everything here. We actually spent a lot of time, it was like 30 minutes just answering questions and giving my thoughts on everything. But very cool stuff. I'm happy to see that, just because a character has their... that most characters will get Spirit Gears. As long as the game keeps going, they plan to pump out Spirit Gears for characters. I still think, which is going to beg the question, once we have like 50 characters with Spirit Gears, doing a weekly rerun of 3 characters at a time is just not going to cut it. So eventually they're going to have to make there be a way, like maybe there will be a mission where you can just get random shards for like a select group of characters. Like maybe there'll be like 10 characters, you get shards for all of them if you do that specific mission. Or maybe just a lot more characters that are older Spirit Gears will just be put on a permanent thing that you can do daily, like I mentioned before. And then also, what was the other thing? Skill quests will be cool. There was something about Mirage Arts. It was, I don't remember where it was. Oh, yeah, okay. Is it possible for characters with third Mirage Gears to have more arts released? So, this won't be the end. I kind of misread this because I thought of it as, you know, they have all of their 5 stars, so maybe they wouldn't be on as many banners anymore with new stuff, with new Mirage Arts. But I think what it's referring to is that third Mirage Gears, third 5 stars are not going to be the end of it. You know, fourth 5 stars will probably happen eventually at some point, as well as, you know, maybe characters will get other 4 stars, you know, different arts, whatever they want to add. It's just, right now, they're very formula with how everything's going, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But that's going to be it, guys. It's been a long enough video for anyone who's actually made it to the end of this. I congratulate you. I will definitely put the link to this down below so people can check it out for themselves and just read up on what they want to read up on. And it'll be very exciting to see what happens. We got about a week until the Richter story, which I will be live streaming and doing some summons and going through the chapter itself. So that'll be pretty exciting. And then a few days after that, we will have the new Berseria event, which I probably want... maybe if I'm lucky on this Richter banner, maybe I'll have some currency left over for Rokuro and Shigure. We'll see. That's going to be it, guys. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more if you're new to the channel. I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.